Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the PKD Awareness live stream, Facebook live stream. My name is Gerlando Garaji. I am a Marianopolis liberal arts student. I'm also the president of the PKD Awareness Club at Marianopolis. I'm so proud to have all these wonderful guests here today to talk about PKD, to talk about the basics of PKD, of polycystic kidney disease, from the medical perspective and also from the patient's perspective. Now, I'd like to introduce to you our panelists today. First, we have Dr. Ahsan Alam, the Associate Professor of Medicine, the Division of Nephrology and Multi-Organ Transplant Program at McGill University Health Center, MUHC. Next, we have Mr. Jeff Robertson, the Executive Director of the PKD Foundation of Canada. Next, we have Luisa Miniaci-Di Leo, the Coordinator of the Montreal Chapter, the PKD Foundation of Canada. And finally, we have Ahsan Engo, Coordinator of Charities and Volunteering at Marianopolis College. Thank you all for being here today, for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to come and talk to the Marianopolis community and everybody else out there watching this live stream about polycystic kidney disease. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, I just want to tell everybody out there my story, why I wanted to organize this PKD Awareness Webinar, this event. Now, not many people know this, but I have a cousin who has PKD, my first cousin. He was born with it. He's 24 today. Now, to me, to the rest of my family, there was nothing ever, wrong with my cousin. My cousin was always my cousin. And so I'm here to support him and to support everybody else who's fighting PKD, to fight this disease, right? We want to raise awareness to this, right? That's how we're going to eventually find a cure through the good work of the doctors and the volunteers out there. And so without further ado, let's begin this PKD Awareness Webinar. We're going to start out with Mr. Jeff Robertson. Jeff, we're gonna give you the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Gerlando, for the introduction. I'm just pulling up my slides here. I'd like to thank the Marianopolis community and college for allowing us this opportunity. It's been an absolute honor to work with Gerlando and Ahsan today behind the scenes, getting ready for this. And I thank all of you for joining us today on this beautiful day. So I'm the Executive Director for the PKD Foundation of Canada, and that is a role I've held for close to 15 years. My family's history is here on the slides. My mother and grandmother both have polycystic kidney disease. My Grams is in her late 90s, doing very well, has never relied on dialysis or transplantation, and has had a very mild form of polycystic kidney disease. My mom on the left, unfortunately had one of the more severe forms, and in her mid-60s now has already endured 2 liver transplants. And the next transplant she will have to undergo will likely be in 3 to 5 years, and that will be her first kidney transplant, all because of polycystic kidney disease. When I was a child, my mom's liver, when extracted for her first transplant, weighed close to 40 pounds. So she is a tall, lean woman who looked 9 months pregnant for the first 15 years of my life because of those fluid-filled cysts that grow and manifest on the affected organ, primarily the kidneys, but it can also affect other organs, in my mom's case, the liver. I won't delve too deep into PKD because I don't want to steal the momentum from Dr. Alam. Our mission for the PKD Foundation of Canada is to promote programs of research, advocacy, education, support, and awareness in order to discover treatments and an eventual cure for polycystic kidney disease, while also improving the lives of all it affects. Our vision is that no one suffers the full effects of PKD. And that's something that we see in today's day and age. Those that are diagnosed now have a different path ahead of them than those that were diagnosed in past years. This is because of the improvements in the quality of care they're receiving, treatment option being approved in 2015, and better research and an understanding of this disease that has helped the medical profession steer towards those advancements. We are the only organization here in Canada solely dedicated to eradicating polycystic kidney disease. Over the years, we've had a few looks. When we were first founded in 1994 through 2009, we were a provincial organization, meaning we only had charitable designation in the province of Ontario. At that time, we were the Polycystic Kidney Research Society of Canada, a big mouthful. And gladly in 2009, we realized that this had to be a level of service that was across the entire country for those affected by PKD and their loved ones. So we rebranded, we reincorporated on a national level and became the PKD Foundation of Canada. And you see we've had a couple looks over the time. The bottom is our present day. And we now have chapters as far west as British Columbia and Vancouver, and far east as Corner Brook, Newfoundland. We're a small but mighty organization with everyone but Kira having a direct tie to polycystic kidney disease. So everyone on the board, which is a volunteer position, either lives with PKD or has had a family member affected by either autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease or autosomal recessive polycystic kidney disease. So this goes to show that our foundation always has the objectives of the PKD community at the forefront of everything that we do, because we as a foundation know exactly what it's like to have PKD run rampant in your family. And we have all committed ourselves to making sure that we do everything we can to better improve the quality of life for those with PKD. So this is just a map of the chapters that we have. So you can see since 2009, we have grown substantially on a national level. Southern Ontario remains our stronghold, and that's because we've been here the longest. But the Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, we recently just signed on for Winnipeg as well. It's our goal to have a chapter in every major city and province and territory, of course, across Canada. Make sure that those requiring support are able to get it from us. During these challenging times that we've been living in the last year and a half, we've migrated as a foundation to provide all of our educational resources. Events like this, webinars of different degrees and topics, have all been accessible online via Zoom webinars. And we've actually seen an incredible growth in attendance of our events, making them accessible to those places that don't have a chapter, that wouldn't necessarily benefit from the educational event or the local support. So by shifting into that virtual world, which so many of us have, we've really been able to fine tune the level of support that we provide those on a daily basis. One of our key fundraising events, our signature fundraising campaign, is the Walk to End PKD. These, in a normal world, generally take place in September across Canada, tangible events, and it's an opportunity to come together as a community, both affected by PKD and having loved ones affected by PKD, to show your support and get behind us in the fight to end PKD. So you can see the large crowd at that bottom photo. That was taken a few years ago in Toronto, but the walk is a celebration of sorts for our foundation. It's a time where friends can get together with others from the PKD community and share in that common goal, which is raising critical awareness and funds for clinical PKD research here in Canada. Very proudly, I say since 2007, we have raised over $2 million through our signature fundraising campaign, the Walk to End PKD. And that is money that has gone to increase and strengthen our programs of education, support, advocacy, awareness, and so important, the clinical research. Our website, which is npkd.ca, is the most comprehensive website here in Canada focused on polycystic kidney disease. It is a fully bilingual website as well, so you can go to NPR or npkd.ca and receive the same quality of information in your language of choice. From there, individuals that are either newly diagnosed or further along in their PKD journey can find information on current statistics and work that's being done in the field of PKD. They can find ways to get connected with our foundation and the PKD community. They can also find out how they can best support the community, both locally and nationally. We are a national leader of clinical research and fellowship funding in the field of PKD, and that is so important. As we'll hear throughout the conversations today, it's the research that's being done presently that is going to change the future for those diagnosed tomorrow. So we as a volunteer-driven patient support foundation strongly support both new clinical research for the development of treatments, but also the fellowship funding. And that's taking care of the brains that are investing their time and their education into the field of PKD. We need to make sure that those minds continue in the path to find clinical research here in Canada. Health Canada has recognized September 4th annually as National Polycystic Kidney Disease Awareness Day. This is an incredible event nationwide to shine a spotlight on polycystic kidney disease and what it's like to live with that disease. Anytime we can get government, health officials, the medical community to show their support of those affected by this disease, it's a win-win. It allows more people to understand what it's like to have this disease, and it also lets them know the levels of support that are out there. So the next two slides, these are from the proclamations and recognitions that we received last PKD Awareness Day. So all of these are the mayors that, on top of Health Canada's approval of PKD Awareness Day on September 4th, made local proclamations. And you can see there is a good number there. We have the mayor from Pointe Claire, Pierrefonds Roxborough. There's a number of them, the Villeray St. Michael Park Extension, that have all supported our Awareness Day and have joined forces to let their local constituents know that they support the PKD Foundation of Canada. On September 4th as well, we'd like to go big or go home. So we started to get monuments all across Canada lit up in our colors, teal and orange, for PKD Awareness Day. These are just some examples. The CN Tower, of course, on the left, Niagara Falls on the right, the Calgary Tower in the middle. But we've had bridges, town halls, city halls, as well as towers and other monuments all lit up in teal to again draw attention to the cause that we are all working so tirelessly for. We host PKD patient forums across Canada annually when there are not travel restrictions and a pandemic happening. These are photos taken from one of the last PKD symposiums that were held. It is a day's worth of education where individuals in attendance get to hear from a variety of speakers in the field of PKD all at once, and to learn what is happening in the community. It's also a great opportunity to again connect with fellow members of the PKD community and to channel that level of support. Our foundation, the PKD Foundation of Canada, came up with End PKD. It seems simple enough, but at the time there wasn't a rally cry heard around the world yet for those with PKD. So by using the hashtag #NPKD, by channeling it with our branding and putting it on everything from t-shirts to magnets to our website, we've seen it take off on a global level. And just in this photo alone, you can see organizations, patient support organizations in Australia have jumped on board. California has license plates. That's Valen Kiefer, a major advocate for PKD. The PKD Foundation in the US with their t-shirts on, and then that's South Africa, where NPKD is dug into the sand. So it's become a international movement, which I'm really proud to say has stemmed from the work of us Canadians and the fight to end PKD. something that's very important is promoting awareness of this disease in the media. And that's something that we take great pride in, working with our volunteers. Luisa is a firehouse force to reckon with in Montreal in raising awareness through the public media. So newspapers, radio, television, any which way we can promote PKD. Again, it just shines a brighter spotlight on this disease. We've been featured in Reader's Digest, National Post, on Global TV, CTV, and then of course there's a wonderful collaboration photo of Dr. Ahsan and Luisa Miniaci-Di Leo, our volunteer Montreal Chapter and walk coordinator, being showcased on Global Montreal, raising awareness of the foundation, the local chapter, and upcoming fundraising events. That's it for me. I get to keep it short today, which is a rarity, so I won't go on much longer, but I did want to send my heartfelt gratitude again to Gerlando and Allison for all of their work behind the scenes to make this event the success that it has been. I wish to thank Marianopolis College and the community and all those attending us today on Facebook Live. Stay connected with us, stay connected with the college. I encourage you all to support Gerlando in that PKD Awareness Club. This is an amazing opportunity to continue making a positive impact in the lives of those affected by PKD in Montreal. So thank you again from us at the PKD Foundation of Canada, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Ahsan.
All right, Jeff. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I really truly appreciate it. What was really shocking, $2 million. That's a lot of money.
$2 million through our Walk to End PKD campaign. So I mean, we are like I said, a grassroots movement, but a force to be reckoned with. And we thrive on the efforts of volunteers like yourselves. And the support of the medical community like Dr. Ahsan. So we couldn't achieve that milestone of 2 million without the PKD community here in Canada.
Absolutely. And you know what, there's a lot of activities that have been done in the past years, and I was very fortunate enough to be a part of one of those activities, one of those fundraising campaigns that Luisa actually organized. It was called Music Heals. That was actually the first time that I was introduced to the foundation, because I didn't know about the foundation before Music Heals. This was in 2019. I remember I was an accompanying pianist for Ari Sky, a very good friend of mine, a phenomenal singer, and with her manager and guitarist Charles McCarroll, that we met at Music Heals, and through them I was very fortunate enough to meet Luisa, and since then we've been working hard together, and we've been doing events together. We've always been sharing posts on Facebook, right, getting that awareness out there, right, getting all that information out there, and so Jeff, thank you very much for that. Now, Luisa, I know you have a few pictures you'd like to show us. You'd like to tell us a bit about your story, so we're going to get right to that. But before we do that, I'd like to just welcome any newcomers to the webinar. If you do have any questions, please type them up into the chat right down below us. We will have a question period later on in the webinar, so don't worry about that. We're going to have an open discussion. Please feel free to ask anything you'd like relating to PKD. All right, so Luisa, we have your mic on. Let's get the screen shared.
All good?
We're all good, Luisa. Whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. Again, I just echo what Jeff said before. I'd like to thank everybody, you especially, and everybody at the Charities and Volunteering Committee at Marianopolis College for helping us to shed light on polycystic kidney disease, which affects 1 in 500 to 1 in 1,000 worldwide. And this disease does not discriminate the origin of your roots. I was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease while trying to investigate another health issue. And so they told me I had polycystic kidney disease, and I was totally shocked because I had never heard those 3 words before. Once they told me that I had polycystic kidney disease, they asked me to find out which one of my parents had it. And I said, look, my parents are healthy. There's nothing wrong with them. You must be mistaken. But I forgot that the person I was talking to was a geneticist. She told me that, you know, one of my parents had PKD. So, you know, went home, told mom and dad, and they were both shocked. My father was taking simple blood pressure medication, and he couldn't believe it. And so the conclusion is they both did an ultrasound, and my father was diagnosed with PKD. Following that, his sister, my aunt, got diagnosed, and then my cousin, and so on and so forth. So basically, I opened up Pandora's box. Like Jeff said, that these cysts, these fluid-filled cysts affect your kidneys. You'll see in the first slide what it is inside. So what you see over there, I'm not going to step over Dr. Alam's information, but this was taken at a presentation where Dr. Alam and Dr. Gali both gave a conference on polycystic kidney disease. This shows you what's going on inside. This shows you how the organs are trying to fight for space. And this here is what it, I don't know if this is okay. This is basically what PKD looks like. My right kidney is somewhere around 30 centimeters. And my liver is basically, it's at least 8 inches long. You'll see pictures of a young child who was born with ARPKD. You see her picture, the before and after, when the gross big kidneys were removed. This is a picture of a woman, the before and after having a transplant, where the kidneys are removed. They're not removed all the time, but it depends on the cases. Dr. Alam will probably talk more about that. We participate in giving a lot of information. I participate in giving a lot of information in various centers, communities, and I was fortunate enough to participate in the CSN, Canadian Society of Nephrology event that took place at the Sheraton downtown. And here is a picture with Dr. Alam. We had our booth, we showed information, and we basically, you know, was a way to show what we're doing at the Pkd Foundation of Canada, how we're raising awareness, and how the movement is growing weekly with people coming on board and saying, well, I've got PKD, or I have a relative who has PKD. And next one. Dr. Alam belongs to the MUHC, and here is Dr. Bolle. He's another nephrologist who's also director of the PKD clinic at the IRCM, Institut de Recherche Clinique de Montréal. He's also been very helpful in sharing information for the Francophone community in Montreal.
So now we've come to a very important part of this webinar, right? We're going to be seeing what PKD actually is. The pictures, the following 2 slides may be a bit graphic for some, but it's important to show, and it's important to show it so we can all see it, so we can educate, we can be better educated for PKD, right? Like I've said in my many Facebook posts, if you've seen them, I know I've put up a lot of stuff on the internet and a lot of information there. Luisa has, everybody has, and so like we said, PKD having multiple cysts form on your kidneys will expand your kidney and grow your kidney to the size of a football, right? And so we're just going to get to that slide now, and Luisa, you can continue on with the wonderful presentation.
So as you see here, these 2 kidneys were removed from a patient, a PKD patient, and if you make a fist, that is basically the size of your kidney. So compare a fist to the size of that. That's how they grow and multiply and basically strangle the function of your kidneys, bringing on dialysis and needing a transplant in order to continue. So this here, what you see here is on the left, you'll see a normal liver, and on the right, you'll see a polycystic kidney disease liver. Because PKD not only affects the kidneys, it also affects the liver, the pancreas, gallbladder. But like I said, Dr. Lam is going to get further in, dig further into that. I don't know if you like baseball, but for all those baseball lovers out there, some people may have heard of a Tony Fernandez. Well, Tony Fernandez from the Blue Jays had polycystic kidney disease. I didn't know until he was really sick, and that's when I learned that he had polycystic kidney disease. So it doesn't just affect us regular people, it affects anybody, and no matter where you're from. So like Jeff mentioned before, I try to use friends and connection to get through to the media and pass on information in the various ethnic communities of Montreal. Here I am on the CFMB Greek radio station. And you'll see the next slide. I'm with the editor of Cittadino Canadese, who just printed an article. As a matter of fact, Cittadino Canadese and Corriere Italiano in the Italian community have been very supportive of what we are doing at the Pkd Foundation Montreal Chapter. Whenever there's an event, whether like they promoted this event today, and I'm so grateful to them. And they are passing on this information within the Italian community, because the Italian community is well known to be one that is very reserved or shy to talk about a disease that they're living with. And after my father died, I decided I wasn't going to be shy to talk about it anymore. I was going to discuss it as if I was talking about having a headache. And in talking about it, it also helps, because you realize that when you go to the doctor's office, when you're in the waiting room and you're in this room, the doctor on that day is seeing only PKD patients, you realize I'm not the only one that's dealing with this. So we've used the Cittadino Canadese and Corriere Italiano to talk about the PKD in the community. Here is Luigi Maria Perotti. he is one of Rai Italia's journalists, very well-known journalist, who did a piece on what I'm doing here in Montreal. And this piece, this video that he did, went on the air in Rai Italia in Italy. So my relatives in Italy ended up seeing the piece. So I got very involved in the community when I moved from the East End to the West Island. And I managed to get a lot of the members of the political community involved. Here I'm with Carlos Leitao. He's my member, a provincial member in Quebec, and he's been very supportive. He participates in all of our events. Next. And here is my federal MP, Samir Zuberi, who last year, prior to COVID, just made it in the nick of time. We went to meet him with a bunch of patients. Here, the same picture as Jeff mentioned, with the mayors. Here is the Rialto Theater. This is how I got to meet Gerlando at our event in 2019, Music Heals. Through a common friend, like he mentioned, we had our benefit concert and over 300 people attended. And you'll see here, I believe the next slide. These are the PKD patients that were in the crowd of over 300. So you can tell there's 17 patients that took the stage to show and hope, light at the end of our tunnel with regards to PKD. This was the first school. General Vanier was the first school in the East End of Montreal to raise awareness of PKD within the school system. So monthly, they used to have a dress down day, which means they don't wear their uniform for the day. And in not wearing their uniform, they bring in a loonie or a toonie, and it goes to a worthy cause. They've donated to multiple organizations, and every September, the funds raised go towards the PKD Foundation of Canada. This here is the Consul General of Argentina, Mrs. Lobuzzo, showing support for the PKD Foundation and for those in her community that are dealing with polycystic kidney disease. Here is Mr. Amer, Muhammad Amer, who's the former Consul General of Pakistan, who also helped in raising awareness within the Pakistani community of Montreal. This picture was taken at our walk to end PKD, and in the center with the Italia sweater is the former Consul General of Italy, Marco Rusconi, along with the mayor of DDO, who's been a wonderful supporter, former MP Carlos Leitao, and city councilors who participate in our event annually. This picture was taken in 2019, where you see the current Consul General of Italy, Silvia Costantini, who participated in the walk to end PKD. And you'll note here in this picture, there are the mayors from all the West Island communities who recognized September 4th as PKD Awareness Day. They also joined us at DDO's Centennial Park to take part in the walk in 2019. This is a glimpse of the crowds that participate at our annual walk. I mean, never did I think that I would stop traffic, but you know what? PKD stopped traffic that day on Salaberry Boulevard in DDO. These are all the walkers that came for the walk to end PKD. This is another shot of the participants. So these are patients, family members, colleagues, neighbors, and friends of friends that have come to support patients with polycystic kidney disease and to help us find a cure for PKD. And I hope here there's a picture with the mayors and with Jeff during the 2019 walk. And this is a bit of my story. And thanks again, Gerlando. But I also want to say something. Like everyone can see Gerlando helping us to raise awareness of PKD. I also need help. Gerlando and we need help. Perhaps we can invite some of the young students in Marianopolis to help us out and raise awareness and shoot ideas and help us find a cure.
Absolutely. You hit the point just right, Luisa. We're here seeking volunteers. We need help to raise awareness, right? If you want to help, contact any one of us or visit npkd.ca, right? You can become a volunteer. And just help us. Just help us in the fight. So, Luisa, thank you so much for your story, for telling us all about your time in the Montreal chapter and organizing organizing all those wonderful events. I'll be forever grateful for Music Heals. And so now,
if I can add, I'd just like to say thank you so much to Miss Luisa. You know, it's so important to speak about it, and especially on a personal level, you know, we can relate to it so much more when you can put an actual human face to the issue and see how it affects people's lives. So that's why, as Gerlando said, it was so important to show the pictures. And so thank you so much for your time and your effort in spreading awareness for PKD. It's always inspiring to have champions among us. So
well, I promised my dad I was going to do something about it. I am third generation, and my son, because this disease is genetic and hereditary, my son has it. So my goal is to make his future a little better and the future of other people.
A beautiful story. I thank you, Luisa, so much for sharing it with us. Now we're going to get to the potatoes of it all, the nitty-gritty of it all. Dr. Alam, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. We know you have a lot of information to share with us, all the latest research, all the latest information on PKD. We know there's a lot to go through, and well, the floor is all yours, Doctor.
Well, thanks so much, Gerlando, and special thanks to you and Ahsan for putting this together, and to the Marianopolis community for making this an activity that hopefully people can learn from. It's a real privilege and an honor to be here with Jeff and Luisa. I've worked with them in the past, and it's always a privilege. So, as you mentioned, we're getting to the meat and potatoes. Hopefully, you can see these slides. And you know, I call this the basics and beyond. You know, I think a lot of people who are listening in might be Marianopolis students who have never heard of PKD before. So the goal is to really raise the awareness and to get them to understand a little bit more about the condition. I might go a little beyond and talk a little bit about the scientific advancements in the field, but it's not meant to be a comprehensive talk. But if you have any questions, no matter what they are, simple, complex, feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll come to it at the end. As mentioned, I'm a kidney specialist. I'm a nephrologist, and I also am a kidney transplant physician. And I have a special research and clinical interest in PKD, and hopefully I can share a little bit more about that with you. Just a housekeeping note. So actually, these slides are not my own. In fact, I have to thank Jeff and Dr. Pandya in Ontario who we put together these slides, and so I'm using them to try to highlight that to you before I put them up. But if I do, I apologize if you didn't want to see it. some of you may be having lunch, and we don't want you to be turned off by it. So to start off, oh, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Sorry. I think my connection stalled there. Can you hear me okay, Orlando?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you fine. You can go ahead and share your slides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry about that. Hopefully this connection will work. I'm at the hospital, and there's a lot of traffic on these Wi-Fi networks. So I'm just going to jump into it and talk a little bit about kidney disease for those who are not familiar. Well, first of all, we have to understand the kidney itself. And, I'm biased, but I think the kidney is a fantastic organ. It's very elegant. Hello, can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to keep going. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I apologize for this connection issue. So to start off, just to understand the kidney a little bit more, the kidney, as many people know, is where you get the urine from. It's responsible for cleaning the blood, filtering out the waste and the water, but it actually is more complicated. It does a lot of interesting things that we may not think about. There are hormones that it releases, and it helps to keep your hemoglobin up, so you're not anemic. It stimulates red cell production. It releases hormones that control blood pressure. And so when your kidneys aren't working, you might get hypertension. And it helps to regulate things like calcium and phosphate and bone health, as well as cardiovascular health. So the kidney is a really a central part of staying healthy. Now, what is ADPKD? So as you already heard, ADPKD is a genetic condition. It's inherited. It's estimated to be affect about 1 in 500 people, although these numbers are variable, and I'll show you a perspective in the next slide. And as Luisa mentioned, normally the kidney is about the size of your fist, but with PKD, we get these cysts that grow in the kidney, increasing the size of the kidneys, and these kidneys can become quite large, quite massive, and cause a lot of problems within the body. Some people probably know about other conditions like Down syndrome, hemophilia, cystic fibrosis, and you can see the sort of the prevalence of these conditions in the population. And PKD is as common, if not more common, than all of those combined. So chances are you may not know it, but you probably have come across somebody with PKD, and maybe they don't even know it yet. But it's something that is out there. And because it's genetic, once we identify somebody, more likely we have other people in their family that are then diagnosed. I won't spend too much time on the history, but obviously kidney diseases go back a long way. But there's probably a suspicion that PKD is not new; it's been there for a long time, and some people have argued it traces back into the antiquity and Hippocrates describing some sort of variant of PKD because of pain. And in the 6th century, people who developed blood in the urine when they jumped around or moved around a lot, and maybe these cysts bursting, causing blood in the urine. But the most definitive case of PKD we have is dating back to the 1500s, where Stefan Bathory was the king of Poland and Duke of Lithuania, died, but almost 400 years later, the university, in honoring him, went back and reviewed his autopsy with the medical community and actually concluded that the cause of death was PKD. And in fact, there were other members in his family, brothers, who had medical conditions and died young, and it's thought that they also had it. So this is not a new condition. It's been there for a long time, but as you can see, we're still raising the awareness about this. So what happens? Well, the kidney is made up of all these filtering units we call nephrons. And so the blood is filtered, the fluid goes down these tubes and eventually goes out into the urinary space in the bladder, and out it goes from the body. But these tubes, which are made up of these cells, can grow and proliferate, and they can form these pockets or cysts, which eventually will continue to fill with fluid, grow, expand, and cause destruction, unfortunately, and damage to the kidney itself. And so over time, we see some symptoms. Some of the symptoms or signs that people we may pick up early are things like high blood pressure. I mentioned the role of the kidney in triggering blood pressure changes. Blood in the urine. Sometimes we don't see it, but we can test it using things like urine dipsticks. Some people who develop complications of large cysts will definitely develop pain or discomfort from the enlarging kidneys or even the liver. And they can feel this with back pain or pain on the flank area of their body. Unfortunately, these cysts can also get infected, and so you can get urinary tract infections, or just cyst infections, so people can get pain and fever, and that may prompt a scan or a look into the kidneys as well. And because of these cysts blocking the normal flow or drainage of urine, we can also develop kidney stones because of the obstruction of these cysts, impairing the ability to normally get rid of some of the crystals that sometimes pass through the urine. But as mentioned, sometimes people don't know they have any of these. They don't have the symptoms, and so they may have a silent condition until much later in their disease course or their life. And we already saw pictures that as these kidneys grow and the cysts crowd out the normal tissue of the kidney or the liver, we have women and men who develop these bulges or expansions of their abdominal region, and it's not uncommon that women are mistaken as being pregnant, or men are described as having these beer bellies, but when in fact it has nothing to do with anything they've done. It's really just the disease continuing. And when these kidneys are getting bigger with cysts, unfortunately the kidney function starts to decline. So how do we diagnose PKD? Well, it's actually by looking at the kidneys. So we can do ultrasounds, which is the same kind of test that a woman will have when she's pregnant to look at the baby. And here on the right, it's not easy to understand what the picture is, but the black areas are actually fluid. So the C represents cysts that we can pick up in the kidney itself. And we're using a lot of other types of imaging modalities or scanners. The bottom one is an MRI scan, and the white areas are fluid-filled cysts. And so you can see these two round structures in the little picture here with lots of these white circles, and those are cysts that are filling up these kidneys. Sometimes we go a little bit further, and we may not be convinced that the scan shows the disease, but we'll be able to do genetic testing because we know it is a genetic condition, and actually we are able to take a sample of blood, extract the DNA, and assess to see if there's a mutation in the genes that cause PKD. So what do we mean by a genetic disease? I mean, many people probably have a good sense of this, but here we see an example of a family where here you have the woman or the mother who has normal kidneys, and she has these green normal chromosomes, and on the other side we have the man who has polycystic kidney disease, and that means one of the chromosomes has a mutation in the PKD gene. Now, if they have a family, they are going to randomly give one of their two chromosomes to each of their children, and by chance this father will sometimes give that normal copy and sometimes will give the mutated copy, and so there's a 50-50 chance that any one of the children can acquire the same abnormal gene or mutation. And so in this example, we have 4 kids, and statistically, 2 of them get that orange colored chromosome with the mutation for the PKD gene. So it's a bit of a flip of the coin that any one child. Now, we certainly see families where there's 3 or 4 children and nobody gets the disease. And unfortunately, in other families, there are 3 or 4 children and all of them have the disease. So it doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to be 50-50, but that's the probability. I won't get into too much detail, but there are actually different types of mutations that you can get. And there's 2 main genes, PKD1 and PKD2. Just to give you a perspective that PKD1 is the more common one. It affects about 80-85% of people with PKD. Unfortunately, it's the mutation that's a little bit more severe and causes faster cyst growth and disease progression and could lead to more complications. So, between the two, it's probably better to have the milder form, but even then there's a lot of variability, and people with the milder form can still develop some of the same complications. And even within the same family where we know the same mutation has been passed on, there's a lot of variability. So just because, your father or mother, if you have PKD, ended up with severe kidney disease and needed a dialysis or a kidney transplant early in life, it does not mean necessarily that the child will be in the same position. So people probably from lifestyle and other factors can have a faster or slower course of disease. Now, you probably have the sense already, we call it polycystic kidney disease, but in fact, it's a systemic condition, meaning that it affects other organs. So I've already talked to you about the kidney complications here on the left part of the slide, like kidney stones, high blood pressure, blood in the urine, pain. But in fact, it can affect other organs outside the kidney. And unfortunately, the brain can also be affected. Some people can develop brain aneurysms or little outpouchings of the blood vessels in the brain. It can be a serious condition if it ruptures, but fortunately, it's not the most common. But we do want to be aware of that, and we investigate and diagnose people if there's any kind of concerns. It can affect the heart with heart valve problems. We saw pictures already of the liver cysts that can can form in the liver and cause growth. Hernias, diverticulosis or outpouchings of the intestine, and cysts in other organs, and was already mentioned, the pancreas, ovaries, seminal vesicles. So there are many parts of this disease that go outside of the kidney. Now, not everybody gets every part, so each person is treated according to what they have, but we do want to be aware of the fact that this is more than just a kidney condition. More so, though, it's not just physical. There's an emotional component to this, and if you are in a family where someone else had it, you already are thinking about how it could affect your life, and so we definitely recognize the issues such as fear that people can have about this condition. They are often seeking out more information. They may have issues about body image, especially as the growth of these kidneys or liver takes place. There are people who know that they have it in their family, but they don't want to know if they have it themselves, and we respect that too. We help them through that journey, and they may not be ready to investigate their own health. There's a lot of variability of what happens in the future. Does everybody need to get a kidney transplant or be on dialysis? No. And how do you know which person is going to head that way? Some people, they are in denial. It's normal. It's part of disease. There's can be anxiety and depression. What about if they want to have kids? They know it's genetic. How do they plan with their partner about having children and what would happen to them? And certainly if they do have a child with the same condition, there may be feelings of guilt. So there's a lot of aspects to this disease that goes beyond the physical. So what can we do? And there's a lot. There's things that are pretty common to lots of people with diseases. We want to encourage a healthy diet and controlling their weight. We want them to exercise regularly and not smoke. So these are all things that we would advise for a lot of people, but it's a great opportunity when you have a diagnosis early in life to really pay attention to that before you get some of the complications. I put avoid excess caffeine. Caffeine in some animal models has been shown to cause some growth of cysts, but in humans, actually, most people who drink a few cups of coffee a day are probably not going to have a problem. But 15 cups is probably a bit too much for this condition. Drinking water is actually important. I'll come back to why that is. Avoiding medications that are hard on the kidney. And I put here non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So these are drugs like ibuprofen, for example, that are a bit hard on the kidney. Measuring the blood pressure and treating it if it's high. So these are all things that are common sense, but very important for us to pay attention to early in people's disease course. And certainly we know that people are going to need support, and they may have people in their family that have the same condition, and they are definitely supported through education and counseling from them, but they need support from their community, from their employer, from their teachers. Of course, we have the PKD Foundation, which is an amazing resource for people, and I encourage everybody with the condition to check out their website and get connected with that community. And of course, as their disease progresses, they'll use more of the resources available in the healthcare network. Hopefully, they have a family doctor who can champion their condition in context of everything else. They'll often be seen by a kidney specialist or a nephrologist, sometimes a liver specialist, and there's many other people that are specialists that might get involved. we help refer them to a dietitian. Their pharmacist is going to be involved depending on what they are being treated with, and they need other support like social worker support, and so there's a big group of people that are going to be involved in the care of people with PKD. So I'm going to go on now into a little bit more of the science. And again, if this is not your thing, that's fine. If you have questions about it, we can go through it at the end. I'm going to go a bit fast, so I apologize if it's a bit too fast for some people. But one thing we've learned about this condition is that here we see a cartoon of the kidneys that are growing over time. So, you have at the bottom someone who's 15 years old, then at 30, 45, and 60. And you can see that there are more and more cysts as the person gets older. But also what you can notice is actually the kidney is getting bigger. And here we can see, sort of the height of the kidney growing over time. Now, we know that the disease is progressing because of these factors, but this red line, which represents the kidney function, or what we call glomerular filtration rate, or GFR, actually might look very normal for many, many decades. And it's only when the kidneys are really quite affected and there's not enough normal kidney tissue that the kidney function will decline. And so the challenge is people may feel well and their blood tests might look normal, but we know the disease is progressing. And our opportunity is to try to slow it down, hopefully before it gets to the point where there's too much damage. I sort of put this cartoon up there, or this picture up there. And again, I apologize, there's going to be a graphic picture coming up. But, I don't know if people know the length of a NFL football. It's about 28 or 29 centimeters. And here is actually a kidney that is about the same size. So imagine yourself having 2 full-size footballs in your belly. Imagine what it would be like to sleep, to do exercise, to bend over, and maybe the discomfort it would cause. So just imagine walking around with 2 footballs, just the weight of that as well, throughout the day. And so what we know is that as these kidneys get bigger, we can predict who is maybe at a higher risk of progression. And so we can measure, because the kidneys are about the size or the shape of an ellipse, we use some mathematics to measure the kidney volume using an ellipsoid equation. And here you can see 3 separate patients, one that has pretty normal sized kidneys with a few cysts, enlarged cysts, and massive kidneys with cysts. And these 3 dots represent, for the same age, the different volumes of these kidneys. And you can see that the first one, the green one, falls below this green line, normal sized kidneys. So that is somebody that we wouldn't be less worried about. And, if I were to track someone like this, their kidney function, which is on this y-axis, might decline over 20 years, but they would still have enough kidney function to keep going. And in fact, they might have another 20 years after this and another 20 years. But unfortunately, the person above this this orange or red line, in 10 to 12 years, they may lose their kidney function. And so we try to pay attention to the size of these kidneys as they're growing for someone's age, and that helps us to predict who is going to be needing maybe some more treatment or intervention down the road. So sorry, here's another graphic picture. I apologize if I'm ruining your lunch, but as you saw earlier, this is somebody who was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. You can see these kidneys just really filling up the whole belly. You can barely see the liver, the stomach, all the intestines are just pushed aside. And this person had to have surgery to remove these kidneys. And you can see that they weighed about 50 pounds. So imagine losing 50 pounds of weight when these kidneys are taken out. And these kidneys are 51 centimeters. So it's almost like 2 footballs on each side that this person was carrying around. So I'm going to get into the science, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. This, slide is going to scare some people. But when I talked about the tubes of the kidneys, this is a cell that would be in that tubule, and there's something called the cilia, which is a little structure that moves around and can sense the flow of urine. And these PC1 and 2 are the polycystin proteins that are coded by the Pkd genes. And so you can see that they play a role in sensing of flow of the urine passing through the kidney. Now, when you have the mutation, there's a change in the signaling within the cell of these kidney cells. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but these mutations will cause an increase in the proliferation or the growth of these cells. They'll replicate, and that's what forms this tubular cystic structure. And they'll increase the fluid that gets secreted into these tubes, into these cysts, and will enlarge these cysts. What's interesting and what we learned about this condition is that there are some hormones that can actually stimulate or affect the growth of these cells and the fluid secretion. And I'll mention one called vasopressin. So vasopressin, because it plays a role, we can actually try to block it. And from scientific studies, you actually started with animals. So there was actually a rat model of PKD. It was found that when these rats that have this disease that's like PKD, they form these big kidneys and these white circles, which are cysts in the kidneys. But if we were to knock out or basically genetically block the vasopressin gene within these rats, they actually don't develop cysts. But when we give back this vasopressin through a medication called DDAVP, we can see the kidneys get bigger again and are very abnormal. So it was really a breakthrough in this field where we now had a medication that can actually help to modify the growth of these cysts. Now, unfortunately, vasopressin has another name, which is called antidiuretic hormone. So in humans, when we actually try to block it, it does cause people to pee a lot. And that's one of the side effects of taking this medication. People will void and make a lot of urine. But it is still a benefit in terms of slowing down the growth of the kidney cysts. And so based on this, there have been some real great breakthroughs in research where we have, over, that by now thousands of people that have been treated with PKD, and giving a medication which blocks this hormone actually can slow down the growth of the kidneys and slow down the decline in their kidney function. And so it seems safe, but of course there are some side effects like having to go to the bathroom a lot, and people are drinking lots of water when they're on this medication, and they may be peeing 5 or 6 liters a day. And so it's something that does change their life a bit. On top of that, I won't go into too much detail, we know that treating blood pressure better actually can slow the growth of these kidneys. And so we're targeting to have people well controlled with blood pressure and to a very low level. And I won't go into too much of the detail. So now, unfortunately, some people with this disease, we don't have a cure yet. And that's why, ending PKD is still an important part of this whole PKD awareness. For now, we can slow things down. And unfortunately, some people with more aggressive disease will need other treatments. And that's when we introduce things like dialysis or kidney transplantation. In terms of hemodialysis, just in general, we're using artificial kidney. So we take the blood out. Here we see it coming from the arm. We often create something called a fistula. And it's not a digital device. It's actually a physical filter that can take out the waste and the water and bring it back to the patient so that the blood is clean. And people do this either at home or they can, either at the hospital, or they can do it at home. And we have machines now that can be set up at someone's house to be able to do dialysis at home. There's another type of dialysis called peritoneal, which is quite interesting because it doesn't use any machine. Technically, it uses the lining of the abdominal cavity called the peritoneum as a filter. And so we put in clean fluid. The fluid will sit there, and then we can drain it out, and out comes the waste and the extra fluid. And people can connect and disconnect themselves and pretty much go on with their day, and they don't have to come to a hospital. But we still think for people who have kidney failure, kidney transplantation is still the best option if possible. And so the way it works is we want to try to find people a good match. And so depending on the blood type, we think if they're a good match, and they shouldn't have antibodies against the person giving the kidney to avoid rejection. But fortunately, there are some ways around that. Even if you have somebody who wants to give you a kidney but isn't a good match, there are these care donation programs. And so somebody who can't give to their intended recipients might be able to give to somebody else. And that person who had a recipient who couldn't give to them can give to somebody else. And this chain happens so that eventually everybody can get a kidney, through this web or chain. And it's a great opportunity. And we've been doing that across Canada for many years now. And so I won't go into too much detail about the different possibilities. It could be a whole talk on its own. But needless to say, I think if people have who need a kidney have somebody who wants to give it, there are ways for that to happen. And you can go to the Canadian Blood Services website and learn more about the different programs available across Canada. So I'm going to wrap up just to let you know that we've been doing a PKD clinic, as many centers across Canada have, and we focus on things like giving advice and counseling for people with various cystic kidney diseases, trying to address their pain, talking about when to do genetic testing, and counseling around family planning, talking about nutrition and lifestyle, having them see our dietitian. Sometimes they need the medications or the treatments or surgeries to deal with some of the complications. We're trying to advance research, and we're involved in some clinical research and trials, and of course, training the next generation of doctors and helping them understand this condition as well. And so I'll finish with that and just sort of recognize that this month was also World Kidney Day on March 11th. And I know we're past that time, but just to talk about the theme of living well with kidney disease. And so this is this year's theme was about increasing education awareness about kidney disease and helping patients with effective symptom management and patient empowerment. And I think what you've heard today is really the focus on the people who are living with this condition and helping to empower them and educate those around them. And hopefully all of you are now a bit more aware of this condition and can support these activities and events going forward. And with that, I think I'm going to stop there.
Doctor, thank you so much. What a wonderful presentation.
I could say something. I know
Absolutely.
that Marianopolis is well known for its science program. So I hope you guys will think about going into nephrology, because we need a lot more doctors and researchers to help us find the cure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know what? Maybe Marianopolis is going to produce a few nephrologists in the next few years or so. Hopefully that would be amazing. I'm sure Marianopolis will be very proud institution already that it already is renowned for its science department, right? For the sciences and its higher standard of education. So now we're going to open the floor to questions, right? I'm sure a lot of people have been wanting to comment, and I know that has been a bit difficult. There were a few technical problems that we had. If you'd like to comment, I'm pretty sure you'd have to join the group as I was told. You'd have to join the Facebook group, Helping Students Help Others, and you can comment. But we've been getting a lot of comments already, a lot of questions. Very interesting questions. And so I'm going to open up the first question. Whoever would like to take it, please do. But I think, Dr. Lam, this one's for you. The question is from Pat Sambuca. And the question is, what are some of the earliest signs of PKD?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's unfortunate because it's not the same for everybody, and people will present in different ways. So, we definitely, in people, let's say they have a family history, but they feel fine. We still want them to get a regular checkup with their family doctor. And the reason is that they can get their blood pressure checked, because that could be an early sign. They can get a urine test to see if there's blood or protein, which could be another sign. They can get a blood test to see if their kidney function is okay, although that's usually a later onset. But anything that can develop a pain from a ruptured cyst, blood in the urine, even a kidney stone. And so we've seen all types. And unfortunately, fortunately for them, sometimes it's silent for decades. And some people, they walk into our clinic in their 40s and 50s, and that's when we're making the diagnosis. And I'm sure Jeff has many people in his community that probably found out a little unexpectedly.
Absolutely. My mom was one of those. Like, Louisa went in for unrelated matters and came out with a PKD diagnosis. So it is quite common.
Yep, I kept having urinary tract infections, and my family doctor was just treating them. And then my doctor, who was trying to figure out why I had so many miscarriages, did a whole bunch of tests, plus CT scans, MRI, and then that's when I was told.
Just like you said, Luisa, earlier on, right? This disease, it doesn't discriminate, right? It doesn't discriminate. You know, just like you said earlier, you had discovered that you had this disease, and it was like you opened Pandora's box, right? That everything just unfolded out after that. And so, you know, I guess it leads perfect into this next question, because Luisa, we know you have AD Pkd, right? And so, well, there's actually a question about from Lawrence Liang. Here we have who's actually the president of the Marianopolis Student Congress, and so he asks, can Pkd genes be recessive? So we know, yes, that to be true, right, doctor?
Yeah. So there is actually another condition called ARPKD, and Luisa showed some pictures of some young children. And you know, it's not something that I see as much. I have a few people with this, because actually it affects people much earlier. It affects kids, you know, when they're quite young. And so most of they actually can get more liver failure as well as kidney failure. And so they're usually diagnosed and treated while they're still children. But yes, absolutely, there is an ARPKD or recessive mode. The more common one is the autosomal dominant, and so that's why it may be very slow and it can present much later in life and often in adulthood.
Okay. And so, well, just to further develop on the question. Now we know the Pkd can affect your other organs, right? Your liver, like we've seen pictures, your liver, gallbladder, pancreas, so on and so forth. The list goes on. Now, is it common to see, let's say, your other organs be covered with cysts in one type of Pkd versus the other?
That's a great question. I mean, the genetics is very complex, and so we haven't found let's say, a certain mutation or certain gene that can predict what people will get more than others. So, you know, why do some people get the brain aneurysm, or why do some people get more liver cysts? And there is a variability. It is a very complex genetic question, and you know, it's something that still needs to be understood better. And so the research is going on. The genes are quite large and very complex. So hopefully we'll learn more. But at this point, you know, we don't have a clear answer of why there's some people who get more of one type of involvement and others who get a different type. And even within the same family, we see that heterogeneity or variability.
Okay. All right. So that's all very interesting. Now I have another question here. It's from a question from Rosa Scalia. Can Pkd be detected by blood works or only by ultrasound?
So there's not one blood test, I would say, that can diagnose Pkd. So it is really based on the imaging, the ultrasound, or some people will end up getting a CAT scan or some other scan like the MRI scan. They're all different ways of scanning or imaging the kidney. Now, I have to say, not all cysts mean you have Pkd. So I don't want people to think that, you know, the moment they see a cyst on the kidney, that they have a disease, because actually, as we get older, we can acquire some cysts on our kidneys too. So it's not uncommon for us to have a few cysts. But what we want to be aware of is that certainly in a family where there is Pkd, having cysts in your kidney really makes the diagnosis much more likely. However, there are probably about 10 or 15% of people where we don't have a clear family history, but we do think they have Pkd. And so there is what we call de novo disease or de novo mutations that can arise. So having a certain number of cysts and having some of the other features we talked about makes it more likely. When we're not sure, we can do genetic testing, and that would be the blood test that would be probably the more definitive one. Having said that, you know, there are a lot of different genes or different mutations within the genes that can make the disease. So it is a bit complicated, but certainly it's not something that's easily just done by routine blood testing. But imaging is our gold standard. Okay.
So that's a pretty straightforward question and answer. Now we have a bit more of a general question. I think Luisa, maybe you can answer this. Now it's from Amanda Mara. She asks, how do you deal with ideal weight when part of your weight includes large kidneys and cysts?
How do you deal with?
How do you deal with ideal weight, with your ideal weight, when part of your weight includes your large kidneys and cysts?
I don't watch my weight. I just try to eat healthy. And I know that if I'm getting bigger in the midsection, it's not me that I'm overeating. It's just the cysts that are getting bigger and multiplying. I know that, I drink my 2 to 3 liters of water a day. I started limiting my protein intake because I'm at stage 3 kidney failure. So I watched my salt. I mean, I don't use salt basically. So when you watch yourself, it's, how can I say it? You're doing the right thing. So yes, you're putting on some weight, but it's not because that you're overeating or that you've abused or that you've cheated or you're not watching yourself. It's just the disease. And that's, just as a side note, as a woman, it really helps the economy because as we get bigger and as our, sizes increase, right? We can't keep clothes for more than 2 seasons. So we change our wardrobe. It's my excuse to change my wardrobe. This is how I look at it. You can't let it, and I don't want it to get to me. This is what you have to put in your head. That's the only thing I could say.
Lisa, that's a beautiful answer. I love that answer. And you know what? You could change your wardrobe. That's you get. I love to buy clothes. I'm always
my husband
in a polo or something. You get. Yeah. I understand that completely. All right. So thank you for that beautiful answer. It was put beautifully. Now I have another question from Lawrence. He asks, can an early diagnosis of PKD help improve patient outcomes?
Maybe I'll take that one to start. So yeah, we can. I mean, I think in the sense that when people are aware of what they have, if they have the condition, they can make those lifestyle changes, let's say to start with. It's not the time, you don't want to be smoking when you have kidneys that are vulnerable to being diseased. They can improve their diet, they can exercise, they can, do all the kind of things that are lifestyle oriented early, and that makes their blood vessels healthier and their heart healthier and their kidneys healthier for the long term. And on top of that, in some people, we can actually assess their risk of progression and decide if early treatment might be appropriate. Right? When I say early, it's treating before their kidney function declines. And so that may change the course and delay, let's say, the onset of dialysis for even decades. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity by knowing earlier and intervening earlier. And so I think I think it's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And so I have another question here from Pat Sambuca. He asks, how close are you to a cure? If you're close at all, how many years would it take roughly to be close to a cure?
Jeff, how close are we?
A cure is a ways away, realistically. I mean, the last 10 plus years have been groundbreaking in the field of PKD by way of the first treatment being approved in 2015. That was the first, it won't be the last. The treatment option that is out there now can only prolong the quality of certain individuals with AD-PKD. So presently there is a great population within the dominant and of course the recessive form that doesn't have a treatment to benefit from right now. So there needs to be continued advancements in treatment options before an eventual cure. That's the end goal, that's the finish line by all means. But there's a lot of work to be done that is currently being done. There's more pharmaceutical biotech companies engaged in investing in the PKD field than ever before. So I'm quite confident that in the next 5 to 10 years, more treatment options will become available. That'll change the framework for future generations of PKD. Well, of course, that clinical research is still being done to push towards the cure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just add, there's this new technology for gene editing that recently, won the Nobel Prize in medicine called CRISPR. And so who knows where this will go? We don't have applications in PKD, but I think, these kind of technologies and advancements might bring us to a point where we can actually fix these genes, which would be, I think, again, an amazing opportunity, but we're not there yet.
Not there yet, but there's hope, right?
There's always hope.
There's always
Absolutely.
hope. There's always hope, right? If there's any Star Wars fans out there, right? A new hope. All right, so I have a question. It was private message to me. It says, should I share with my family if I just got diagnosed with PKD?
I would strongly support that. When one is newly diagnosed, it can be a very lonely, confusing, complex time for an individual. And to think that anyone would have to go through that without the support of their family is heartbreaking. So we always encourage, to the best of a family's ability, to share that information as much as they're willing to with those that they confide in, so that they can benefit from the support and the outpouring of help from their family members. I think it's invaluable to talk about it. We encourage all of our patients, obviously, to share their voice. Connecting with other people in the PKD community is another opportunity. Some individuals aren't necessarily or don't have family to connect with, so they rely on that external PKD community, coming to educational events, participating in conversations online, attending educational or fundraising events, and connecting with other PKD families. I couldn't support that anymore, so I would absolutely advocate for that.
And what about the other panelists here? Could I assume the same
Yes.
thing?
Yes, I think it's important to talk about it with your family, because you want to make sure that they watch what they eat. You want to make sure that they stay as healthy as possible, right? So in my journey, and when my children, I have two sons. My youngest has PKD. When they became college age, actually, my kids, they both had started at the John Abbott College. And, they knew my journey with PKD, the numerous times that cysts ruptured. And so they knew the drill, right? So I sat them down, we had a family powwow. Guys, you know what I'm going through. Do you guys want to know whether you have PKD or not? So my oldest at the time said, yes, Mom, what do I need to do? So at the time he was still, seen by the pediatrician. So she asked for a simple ultrasound, and he doesn't, it showed that he doesn't have PKD. And he was followed up for many years by my nephrologist to check if he has it. And so at the age of 30, he got cleared. My youngest, when he was 19 years old, and he did the ultrasound, they noticed right away he had cysts on his kidneys and his liver. And so he knows. I think the reason why I spoke to my kids about it is because I wanted them to make responsible decisions. I wanted them to know, God forbid they're ever in an accident, or, if he says that, he has PKD, well, the treatment, the doctors attending to them will be, how should I say it, aware of what's going on, So, yeah, I think it's very, very important.
And just as a last added point, you want to consider as well, if one is diagnosed and down the road they require either dialysis or a transplant, the conversation with your family is going to be very important around that, and potentially speaking with your family and having them understand and know of your diagnosis. There's potential there for one to find a family member that may be able to give kidney or part of a liver down the road. And if you haven't had that conversation and then suddenly you're in the position where you're in need of prolonging the quality of your life, either through dialysis or transplant, you're going to have quite a curveball. So I would tie that into why it's important to talk to them early on.
So we all brought some very interesting points, some very good points. Now that we have talked about all this important information, I would just like to conclude. I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Lam, to Mr. Jeff Robertson, to Luisa Miniaci, to Ahsan Engo. Thank you so much for making this PKD Awareness Webinar successful, for making it that we all get to know a bit more about PKD from the patient's perspective, from the medical perspective. I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to thank Marianopolis College for allowing this event to be hosted by the institution, and I'd like to thank everybody who joined the live and who are watching after the fact. I'd like to thank you for getting through all of it. I'm happy we took this journey together today. And so,
Orlando,
sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think you actually deserve a lot of thanks from all of us for putting this together. So I wanted to make sure, Orlando, you're recognized and your partners, including Ahsan and the Marianopolis community. Thank you.
I'd like to really take the moment to thank Mr. Jeff Robertson, Ms. Luisa, and Dr. Lam for taking the time to speak about PKD today. As you guys all made it really important. It's such an important movement that unfortunately a lot of us don't know about. And that's why we're so grateful that you came today to speak to the youth and the students. And like Luisa said, just talk about it. So thank you to Mr. Robertson and Ms. Miniaci for coming here and representing all the patients who are affected by the disease. And thank you to Dr. Alam. It's so special for us to hear about it from a doctor's point of view, who has such a good understanding of the medical problem and who's able to explain it to us in, such a complex disease to the rest of us. So it's a privilege to meet someone like you. And like you said, I know that Marianopolis is a really science-oriented college as well. And many of us are no doubt going to be inspired by you and follow your footsteps. As you said, we need more nephrologists.
Yes.
So it'd be great for us as young adults, as we go out into the world, to find something that we truly care about. And Orlando, I saw that you truly care about the PKD awareness. So thank you for coming to speak to us. But, thank you to Orlando. Orlando, you've been thanking everyone so far, but I saw you work tirelessly for over a month to plan this event, and just taking the time to advertise it, to speak to everybody, to use your public speaking skills to convey your message, to spread it basically everywhere. I saw it on Facebook and Myos and on Instagram. It was, Orlando, you did an amazing job, and I'm so proud to say that this event was really successful. So on behalf of the honors program at Marianopolis and the Student Congress, thank you so much for all your time today. So thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, thank you so much for the kind words. I'm going to start crying now, you guys.
No, I thank you for helping out. Really means a lot. Means a lot.
Luisa, Ahsan, Jeff, Dr. Lam, thank you so much. And thank you very much for making this PKD Awareness Webinar happen. To all those watching, thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you got to learn a bit more about PKD. Thank you.